Welcome to the new Connect session for July. In this session, we'll explore the following topics: column deletion in resources, chart of accounts and its impact on accounting models, source monitor with repositories, and last but not least, artificial intelligence. Let's start with resources and reconciliations. Great! In this new version, we're introducing the ability to delete columns and recalculate transformations. We know that resources often become cluttered with unnecessary columns, or that transformation columns get deprecated over time, or need to be recalculated or updated. Well, starting with this release, we're happy to share that you'll now have that flexibility. From now on, you'll be able to delete unnecessary columns without compromising data integrity. This will help reduce the weight of your resources and significantly improve the efficiency and performance of your reconciliations and use cases. So, continuing a bit with this feature, I'd like us to dive deeper and maybe open up a quick discussion around best practices that come with it. As I mentioned earlier, starting with this version, you'll now be able to delete columns from your resources. What do we recommend? First, take the time to carefully review which columns are no longer necessary and coordinate with your team before deleting them. Once a column is deleted, it cannot be restored, so it's crucial to be extra cautious. That said, Symmetric will alert you if a column is being used elsewhere, such as in a transformation, a matching rule, or any other configuration. If that's the case, the system won't allow the deletion to proceed, protecting your logic and dependencies. One more thing to keep in mind. If a deleted column was being used in a visualization, like a dashboard or pivot table, that visual will most likely stop working properly. So it's important to coordinate the removal and plan for rebuilding those visuals if needed. Recommended good practices. Regularly review your resources to identify deprecated or unused columns. Perform cleanups on a recurring basis to maintain optimal performance. Even though Symmetric will warn you about technical dependencies, it's still a good habit to double-check manually with your team for broader impacts. This kind of housekeeping ensures your configurations stay clean, efficient, and maintainable as your use cases grow. So, moving on to another new feature and improvement introduced in this version, let's talk about data deletion locking. As many of you know, a single resource in Symmetric can be linked to multiple other resources. For example, starting from a single source, you might build a union, a reconciliation, an open source, and so on, forming a chain of dependencies. Now, what happens in practice? There are situations where someone might try to delete records, via filters or by removing a file, from an upstream source, while another user is simultaneously editing a matching rule, running a manual reconciliation, triggering a sync or another action. These actions start to compete, and this can lead to unexpected issues like errors when trying to create or edit something, failed executions, confusion over why certain updates don't go through. What does this new feature solve? With deletion locking, if a resource is currently affected by a deletion from an upstream process, for example in a union, you will now see a clear notification indicating that this resource is temporarily locked due to an ongoing deletion in a dependent resource. Also, manual actions or executions will be disabled while the deletion is being processed. This brings more transparency to simultaneous actions, fewer unexpected behaviors or inconsistencies, improved coordination across users working with shared resources. Overall, it's a significant improvement in data governance and operational safety, helping teams avoid disruptions and better manage shared configurations. Here's a bit more context on this deletion locking feature, especially in relation to the process monitor. Previously, when a file was deleted, some users would wonder, why is this taking longer than expected? The reality is that a single deletion could impact 30 or more downstream resources, which naturally extends processing time. What's new? We've introduced a detailed breakdown in the process monitor so you can now clearly see all the resources impacted by a deletion, the current progress of the deletion across each resource. This gives you much greater transparency into what's happening behind the scenes and helps you estimate how long the process might take. Best practices. If you notice that a deletion is in progress, it's best to wait until it's fully completed before triggering. Manual executions. Edits to reconciliations. Any automated processes. If you know you'll be deleting files that could affect many resources, try to schedule it during a low activity window, for example late in the day, to avoid disrupting other ongoing operations. What to avoid? Don't force executions or run syncs manually while a deletion is running. Avoid editing reconciliations or settings on resources currently involved in the deletion. Thanks to this new feature, Symmetric now automatically blocks conflicting actions and issues real-time alerts, significantly reducing the chance of inconsistencies or user errors during critical data deletion workflows. We're introducing limits on the number of columns and sources that can be added to a source union. However, don't worry, this change only applies to new workspaces. What's changing? Column limit, up to 40 columns per union. Source limit, up to 20 sources per union. If you already have unions with more than 20 sources or 40 columns, they will continue to work as usual. The restrictions only apply to newly created workspaces. Why these limits? This update is intended to preserve the performance and stability of unions, encourage cleaner and more efficient union design. Need to exceed the limits? If your use case requires more than 20 sources or 40 columns in a new workspace, reach out to your customer success manager. The limits can be adjusted without any cost. Best practice recommendation? Be mindful of what you really need in your union. Include only the columns essential for your process. Limit the number of sources where possible to ensure optimal performance. This change ensures a smoother experience as you scale your use of Symmetric. Now let's move on to another key functionality, Chart of Accounts. One of the new features we're releasing is Chart of Accounts. This functionality allows you, as users, to upload your own chart of accounts into Symmetric. To clarify, this is not the trial balance. It's the Chart of Accounts, which is a different concept. You can export this chart from your accounting system, ideally the same one you work with daily, and upload it into Symmetric. Once uploaded, the platform will recognize the accounts you use regularly. Now, what's the purpose of uploading these accounts? It's to give you the flexibility to map and configure structures or accounting models more efficiently. Instead of entering account values manually using fixed values or resources as a data source, Symmetric will automatically display the available accounts from your uploaded chart, making the mapping process easier and more accurate. So basically, the main goal of this functionality is to provide structure and consistency to your accounting models through the Chart of Accounts. It also lays the groundwork for what's to come. Why are we doing this? Primarily to offer you faster and more direct access, streamline the data entry process, reduce errors, and save you time. But beyond that, it also sets the foundation for upcoming developments, particularly around automation. As you know, Symmetric already has access to all the reconciliation data you need for accounting purposes. This new feature begins to pave the way for automated accounting flows and future enhancements designed to simplify and optimize your daily work. So, as I was saying, this involves two main parts. On one hand, we have the initial upload or update of the Chart of Accounts. As shown in the demo, this means uploading your Chart of Accounts file. The way we propose to uniquely identify each account within the system is by using a combination of the legal entity, or company, and the account number. This ensures each account is uniquely tracked in the platform. All future updates should follow this same structure and must adhere to a template that we'll provide. This template must be respected without modifications. As a best practice, it's essential to keep your Chart of Accounts up to date using this template, exactly as we provide it. No alterations, no changes, just as it's structured. You'll see that the process is very simple and straightforward. So, once the Chart of Accounts has been uploaded, we move on to the next step, something that those familiar with creating structures and models will recognize. This step involves the configuration of the fields within the structure and model. But this time, you'll have a new option. Currently, you have something called the data source, which defines where the information will come from. This can be fixed value, where you manually input the account. Resource, where the data is pulled from a reconciliation. Now, there's a third data source, Chart of accounts. When selecting this new data source, both the structure and the model will display a drop-down list showing the legal entities, companies, and the chart of accounts that you've previously uploaded and are currently using. Let's continue with another feature, Source Monitor with repositories. The first feature is the Source Monitor with repositories. For those of you who have attended previous Connect sessions, you're likely already familiar with repositories, or databooks as they're called in English. These are tools that allow you to ingest data into the platform more efficiently and also support data output. This represents a new way of storing data within the platform. As for this monitor, those already familiar with the current Source Monitor will notice it looks quite similar. However, it is specifically designed to work with these new resources, repositories, which are connected to sources, and gives you full visibility into all incoming files and their processing statuses. It covers both input processing to the repository and output processing to the source. So if you have files that are duplicates, empty, or failed, the goal of this monitor is to give you a centralized view where you can quickly identify where the problems lie across your different use cases. What's the main benefit of this monitor? It allows you to track all statuses across all your sources from a single place. If you have, for example, 100 sources, it's clearly not convenient to check each one individually to locate an issue. This monitor allows you to see the status of every file across all the sources you want to track, all in one place. Now let's move on to our final section, artificial intelligence. We also want to give you an update on artificial intelligence and share the latest features we've released, along with some functionalities introduced in past versions. Let's start with what's already available in the platform. The first enhancement allows you to create transformations much more efficiently than before. Until now, the only way to create a transformation was manually writing the formula yourself, which involved understanding the correct logic and functions. Now we're introducing a tool that lets you use natural language to describe what you want the transformation to do. The system then automatically suggests a formula based on your input. No need to know every function or formula in advance. This significantly streamlines the process while still allowing you to perform any calculation and get the results you're looking for. Another improvement already in place applies to column casting. After loading data into Symmetric, you may need to cast or reformat data so the system can interpret it correctly. A common case is with dates. With this new functionality, AI will analyze the incoming data, detect the format used for date fields, and suggest the proper format so that Symmetric can recognize and display it correctly as a date. For those using unions, you know that one of the biggest pain points is adding new sources or columns. It can be a tedious task to manually search through each column and each source you want to include in the configuration. This is where two new enhancements come into play. 1. When you've already configured a union and want to add an additional source, the system will now suggest sources based on column names. For example, if you already have a column named Settlement Date and you add a new source that also contains a column with that name, the system will automatically recommend it. You just need to confirm the suggestion for it to be included in the union. 2. When you want to add a new column to the union, such as a merchant column, the system will scan all available sources and suggest any column with a matching name. This makes it much easier to map fields consistently without needing to search manually. The visual cue for this feature appears in a recommendation box on the right-hand side, where the system displays suggested columns for you to include in the union. You can accept these suggestions with just one click. This is indeed a new feature that will be released with the upcoming version next week. We're introducing Yay-powered suggestions for matching rules used in advanced reconciliations. It's important to note that this feature will only be available for advanced reconciliations, not for standard ones. Here's how it works. As soon as you attempt to create a new reconciliation, the system will scan both sources and suggest the most suitable matching sweep with the highest likelihood of producing a strong match rate between the two datasets. There are still a few limitations in the current version of this feature. However, the main benefit, especially for new users, is that it provides a faster, more intuitive way to unlock value from advanced reconciliations. It helps users understand the configurations more easily and set up their matching rules more quickly and accurately. That's all for today. We hope this walkthrough helped you better understand the new features and enhancements included in this release. As always, we encourage you to explore them directly in Symmetric and reach out to your Customer Success Manager if you have any questions or need support. See you in the next session, and let's keep mastering Symmetric feature by feature.